All right, welcome everyone to another edition of the GK webinar series put on by Tennessee Soccer Club. I'm your co-host, Lou Libertor, Director of Goalkeeping, along with my co-host, EV, aka Gandalf of Goalkeeping, and our other Director of Goalkeeping here at Tennessee Soccer Club. Tonight we are going to focus on crosses or flank service and help you guys understand the different positional requirements and other areas to make these decisions so that you can diffuse these situations for your teammates. EV?
Good evening, everybody. Glad you're with us. I'm looking forward to this because as we get into it, you'll see some of the areas that a lot of times when Lou and I are coaching you in the goal or on the field, we're pointing, to where the cross would come or where the cross would try to be. Coach Lou has put together some great graphics that you can actually see from a field position what we've been talking about. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to help you a lot.
Awesome. Thank you for the kind words. So tonight, just to give everyone an idea of where we're going to focus, in our other webinars, we've gone in and out of possession. But for these flank service situations, we're really going to focus on the out of possession. So when we are defending the area or the 18-yard box, okay? So the three major things we're going to focus on are crosses from the wide channel, crosses from the half space, and a cutback or a three-goal situation. Okay. These situations are not the end-all and be-all, the only situations for crosses that you'll encounter, but we're going to see that a lot of these situations can and will overlap, and they'll morph from one of them to another, whether it's from a half space into the wide channel, from the wide channel into the half space, or even into a cutback moment. So the other thing we'll consider are the type of ball. Is it on the ground? Is it in the air? Is it driven? Is it bouncing? Is it bent? Is it lofted? Is it a combination of the two? Now we see a lot of players, even at our level, that are able to drive that ball with a whip and bend across the 6-yard box or from a deep line position into the 18. So the biggest thing we really want to focus on are some of these keys that you guys need to remember. And you'll notice that they start to overlap when we look back to our communication webinar, to our set piece webinar. These are themes that will continue to overlap as you grow into the position. So, like always, our number one priority is defend the goal, okay? But then underneath that, in order to defend the goal, we're going to try to defend our 18-yard box, whether that's with our actions or with how we influence our defenders to deal with those situations. Okay, then the next thing we have to consider is, what is the situation? Is it a cross from the wide space? Is it from the half space? Is it a cutback? Where is the ball? Again, the different channels help us understand that clearer. And what is the player doing with the ball in those spaces? Are they driving down the channel? Are they driving across the channel? Are they looking to combine? So the other thing that we don't often consider, but now we're talking about the run of play, is what are our defenders doing too? Because now we have players from our team and the opposition who are in the box trying to make plays on the ball. And as we know, sometimes that can lead to unfortunate circumstances, aka own goal. And then the other thing is, can we organize early? Can we assign responsibility? All right. We want pressure on the ball. We want to deal with that near post runner, back post, and then top of the box. Coach?
Yeah, and let's stress here, defending your goal is the number one priority. But the challenge, guys, of crosses and serves is Everybody on our club is a fairly good shot stopper, and that's kind of a one-dimensional thing. I mean, the player hits the ball and you save it; it's on target. The challenge with crosses is it's almost three-dimensional because everything uh, begins out wide. It's everything is starting to converge on your goal, and it's a crisis that's beginning very quickly, and it accelerates. And your challenge as a goalkeeper is to recognize it, number one, and try to deal with it, number two. And before we move on to the next thing, just something to keep in the back of your mind. Defend your goal, number one, but as with every crisis, there's an opportunity. This is an opportunity for the goalkeeper, for you to regain possession.
Spot on, Coach. I agree 100% with can we regain possession? Okay, so we need to consider a few things in terms of age in regards to what we expect in these situations within TSC. And if I'm honest, I think this might cross over into other clubs as well, or even your high school teams or middle school teams. But all of our goalkeepers, whether they are our U8s to U12s, U13s, and U15s, all the way up to our U19s, we have to be calling keeper and away. Keeper if we're coming, away if we're not. Okay. And then if we can even think back to that communication webinar, can we, maybe if we yell away, assign who we want to clear the ball? Okay. Um, with all of our goalkeepers, we want to start to understand where these balls are being played from, where the ball is, and what type of situation we could be facing. Now, again, we're using that red X with our U8 to U12s because not all of these situations are necessarily going to happen at your age because of the size of the pitch, because of the physical and technical abilities of the players. And to be quite honest with you, I think the thing that you'll see the most in those age groups are balls from what we would consider the half space or a cutback. Okay, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We really want to see you guys trying at that young age, and then it's a mandatory with our U13 and up goalkeepers that we are organizing our teammates and we are assigning responsibility of players or spaces within the box in these moments. And that even goes into, are we keeping them from dropping too deep? Okay. Again, positioning for cutbacks and 3 goals situations. Some of this will come naturally to our U8s, U12s without us really even having to put you in that situation, just based on the size of the field and the inclination to go and get the ball. But again, with our older goalkeepers, some of the nuances of, am I in my open stance or am I completely closed at the near post? Okay. And then this half space cross, early ball in behind, that is really starting to be important with our U13 to U15. We might see it a little bit at the younger ages, but again, that's getting a little bit advanced tactically. But it's a requirement for our U15 and up. We have to understand positioning in this moment so that we can either come and win the ball, make a play on the ball, turn the situation almost into a 1v1, depending on the type of ball, if it's a low bent ball into the box. Or do we drop in and respond? Wide channel crossing positioning, again, this is more maybe for our U12 and up. That's why there's that red X again. But we have to understand that the optimal position a lot of times in these moments is the center of the goal. And then can we be aggressive, get off that line with our starting position so that we can diffuse this situation. And then the last thing is, it says organize the teammates again, but it's control the space, okay? Similar to a set piece, we want to keep our back 4 out of our box, out of the 6, as high as we can, so that we have space to operate if that's a strength, or even if it's not of ours, so that way we don't have to deal with attacking players and defenders on top of us before or as the ball is delivered into the box. Coach?
Everything here that's on this slide is your basic blueprint for dealing with crosses and serves. And you'll notice U15s through U19s, every box is X'd. All right. That means we expect you to be able to do all of this and to be able to do all of this in a crisis situation. Okay. Now, it's not going to happen immediately. We'll have to train at it. But, everything that is on here, we expect you to take away from tonight and make it part of your goalkeeping repertoire. And U15s through U19s, this is it. This is what you got to do. And this is the starting point before we get into more of the tactics.
Okay, so again, focusing on that out of possession, defending the area. So we're going to go through this, and we have some good slides tonight that will help you kind of really understand these different areas we're talking about, as well as go through some situations. So thinking about the area, okay? So we have the field, we've divided it into 5 different channels. We have our wide channels here and here. We have what is commonly referred to as the half space here and here. And the width of these channels depends on your coach, the club's game model. But for us, we're going to go with this kind of width, okay? And then we have our central channel, all right? But when we refer to the area in defending the goal, we're talking about this yellow shaded area here, the 18-yard box. So defend the area helps you protect your number 1 priority, which is the goal. Okay. Whenever we're dealing with this, we have to think about our strengths as a goalkeeper as well. So if you're a 5'11" female goalkeeper, we would assume that your range is going to be much greater than maybe a 5'3" female goalkeeper. However, that could change based on your strengths and weaknesses athletically and your ability to judge the flight of the ball. Okay, and that is okay. What we need to focus on here is how do we maximize each of your strengths as goalkeepers. Okay, the other thing we have to consider in these moments is the player on the ball. Okay, what have you noticed about them throughout the game? Which foot are they favoring? How do they like to strike the ball? Do they have a player who's their favorite target? As you get older, hopefully some scouting footage will help you with this a little bit, but you have to be observant as a goalkeeper with those attacking players. Then you also have to consider how many attacking players are coming into the box. So are they playing a 4-2-2? So they're going to have 2 number 9s in the box. Are they having a 4-3-3? So there might be a 9 and a 10 in the box and maybe an 11 or a 7 coming in from the wide space. Okay. And then how many defenders do we have? Are we able to mark everyone up? Do we have to play zonal? Do we have to play a combination? So those are the major factors we have to take into account in these moments, along with where the ball is, okay? But the biggest thing is protect your goal and play to your strengths in these moments. Coach?
2 things here. One is that Coach Lou mentioned range, and range means how far you can come off of your goal line to claim a cross or a serve. And it varies for everybody depending upon your physical abilities and your dimensions. Second thing that's great here is you'll notice Coach has put in channels. He's put in wide channels, like he said. He's put in the half channel or half space, like he talked about, and then the space directly in front of the goal and the penalty arc. Generally, then this is generally because everything changes, it's a flowing game, but generally when the ball is in the outside channels, you have more time to react to what's going on. Okay. If it's in the half space, okay, you're going to have less time. And balls from the channels will most likely be flighted in. Okay. Balls from the half space could be a 50-50 flighted to the back post or played through. Balls in the middle are going to be either played through or they're going to be a shot most of the time. Not always, but most of the time.
Great points, Coach. I 100% agree with that. That is key there is as we go through, we'll see exactly what Coach EV has pointed out. It is about where the ball is and what you have to recognize. So now we start talking about those three situations, and we've put in a little bit more shaded area to kind of give us an idea. Now, it's important that what I have outlined and Coach Evie have outlined here is not necessarily how, if we went and spoke with a goalkeeper coach at, say, Clemson, they may have a slightly different interpretation as to what the wide channel is, what this half space where this situation will develop is, and what a cutback where that will develop. Okay, and that's why we see some overlap here. And you'll see later that even this half space channel is drawn differently on one of the slides because it depends on the player that we're talking about. Okay, so again, this wide space channel is in yellow. Okay, depending on where in the channel it is going to impact the type of service in terms of how high it is, the pace of the ball, okay, the whip on the ball, is it driven, is it floated, is it lofted, what kind of players are inside the area that you have to deal with in terms of, do they have a 6'1" player? Do they have a crafty little player that wants to combine and score with their feet? Bonnie will get to what a cutback is in a minute, okay? The half space, okay? This space in here, this is a space where players are either going to shoot or cross, okay? And you have to be able to defend both of those. So it could bounce, it could be lofted, it could be driven, it could be floated. There's so many different options in there. And then this cutback space, okay? They could still shoot in this moment here, but a lot of times we're talking about where they want to get to the end line and then cut it back, cut the ball back into here for the 9, the 10 running in late, or even the 8, or maybe the weak side 7 or 11 coming in. Okay, and we'll get to the positioning for the goalkeeper in those moments. But again, we see that the ball goes wide and now it can come back centrally, or it can combine in here and we can go wide, or we can drive and get around the corner. Okay, so these are just some general guidelines for where these types of services are going to come in most commonly. Coach?
And not to make this more complicated, but the zones that coaches put in here, let's say that you're trying to defend a 1-goal lead with 10 minutes left in the game. Okay. Well, the team that you're playing against may well get into either of the channels that are marked number 1 and just loft the ball into the box, hoping for a knockdown, hoping for chaos, hoping for, they may change their whole approach to attacking your goal dependent upon where you are in the game and what the game result is at the time. So this is why, like when we started talking about this is what I meant. Like, this involves a lot more than just, hey, I'm in my goal, I'm in the proper position, I can stop the shot. You have to read a lot of stuff that's going on, and you have to be able to react to it quickly. And by looking at this diagram, get this in your mind, so that when you go outside into the goal, you've got the computer that says, okay, now I remember when we were going over this with the various zones, because this is an excellent graphic of what you're going to have to deal with as a goalkeeper.
All right, so now we'll get to the fun part. We'll start talking about some of these situations here, okay, and some considerations. So we'll start simply from the wide channel, the ball from the wide channel. And so if we look at where the ball is, it's central, it's in the central channel, and it's sprayed wide because for some reason there's this massive gap, okay? So it's sprayed wide. Our 7 from the opposition runs on, and 2 options here. Okay, they can deliver this ball right into this danger zone, which is what we call the second 6-yard box. Okay, a lot of teams know that if they put the ball in this red shaded space, that it is extremely difficult for a goalkeeper to get all the way out to the PK spot. Now, with some positioning, hopefully we can help you guys cover more of this area. Now, we don't expect you to cover all this area. Some of you, this is a strength, and others, getting to the top of the 6 is, that's your range, but we want to help you extend it. So if we see this green rectangle, okay, the goalkeeper, as long as they're somewhere in this rectangle, okay, they are in a position, if the ball is here, to protect the goal and hopefully, depending on the pace of the ball and how quickly these players drop in and the runs come for this ball, if it's this first ball we're talking about, okay, this of the black line, okay? Now, here is where we start to get tricky in this situation, okay? If this player decides, because Rachel, who you've told to step, she's got the number 1 because she's the first player you need to communicate with in this moment. Can we get pressure on the ball? So if we remember back to our communication, it's Rachel, step, okay, to the ball. So we play the ball, Rachel steps out. Okay, now Rachel is a late, so this player decides to deliver the ball early. We're talking to Megan and Sarah to drop and pick up certain players, okay? And ideally, they're going to drop to the top of this danger zone so we can still have room to operate. Ideally, in this first situation from a wide space, we don't want our players to drop any deeper because we want to be able to go out there as the goalkeeper, and that way we can stay a little higher with our positioning. Now, if we see this blue scenario, this player starts to dribble, okay? So now it becomes even more important that we don't just allow our players to just continue to drop all the way. We hopefully keep them somewhere in the middle of this 6-second 6-yard box, the danger space, okay? Which then, because she's a right-footed player, we can be a little more aggressive with our starting position. So that means further away from the goal line, maybe 3 yards. And that will help us extend our range in this moment as well, okay? Now, as that player is dribbling, that's when we can check our shoulder and hopefully mark players up, okay? But the reality is this is going to come down to, can you manage the space and can you put yourself in a position that allows your strengths to be maximized, okay? Are you going to get through all 4 of the communication moments? Maybe. Depends on how quick the game is. But most importantly, can we get pressure on the ball? Okay. And then can we establish the line we want our players to drop no deeper? And then keeper or away. Okay. In both these moments, I have our goalkeeper claiming the ball because she's a rock star. Okay. Bonnie, I hope that answered that question that you had. Guys and girls, if you have questions, use the Q&A box, and I will make sure that we get them answered in the run as much as possible. Coach EV, anything to add about this moment?
No, this is perfect. This is a perfect diagram of what's going to happen. But I'll harken back to when you're training with me and Coach Lou. You'll hear us occasionally say, particularly if we're standing in the goal behind you during a drill, have a look around, okay? And that's key in this, okay? As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on. You've got defenders who are running. If they're recovering, like Coach Lou has diagrammed, they're facing the goal, right? Or they're coming toward you. And you need to have your head on a swivel in a situation like this and quickly scan as much information as you can and then pass it on to your defenders to make your job easier. But I mean, this is what happens. This is perfect because this is how teams try to attack your goal.
I think the other thing that needs to be mentioned is, Coach Evie is talking about things that hopefully you've heard us say, whether it's take a look around, check your shoulder. And if you notice, we're trying to recycle back to previous webinars because, like we've said, the position is cyclical. The principles don't change. Communication isn't going to change, but this is where it becomes super, super important. Okay, so this is a moment that happens so often in our game, especially at the youth level. And it's not a moment necessarily that you would classify by itself, but it is another example of a ball coming from the wide channel that we have to be ready to deal with. Okay. And it gets a little tricky, so bear with me on this. Okay. So we're talking about the early cross. Okay. The ball in behind, we're seeing less and less of this ball over the top or through. What we're seeing is maybe a ball that's one here in the middle third, and it's sprayed wide. And then this player, whether it's intentional or not, Coach Evie and I had a great conversation about that in preparing for this. This player 7 decides to play a ball in early because there's all this space between the back 4 and the top of the 18. Okay. And the goalkeeper, because we're connected, is nice and high. So they're trying to play in this space, whether it's driven, whether it's a bent ball in. Okay. So as that ball's sprayed wide, the goalkeeper has realized I need to drop into that box. Okay. But ideally, if it's here, we're staying really high at the top of that green box centrally, so that we can hopefully deal with this yellow space. Okay. However, if we know that she has an absolute cannon of a leg, we might need to drop more into this middle of this green box. Okay. And then we have to be able to deal with this second 6 in this moment, no matter how many players are coming in. Okay. But then our positioning will hopefully help us deal with at least some of this yellow space. We don't expect you to always be able to cover all of this yellow space in this moment because, again, your first priority is the goal. So if we've turned the ball over, it's gone wide, you've got to start to drop and adjust into the ball line here so that you can protect the goal. Okay. This blue line is that ball that's maybe mishit, dribbled, bouncing in, and then hopefully we come and we win with our hands, and now we have regained possession. This is still a crossing moment, okay? Just because it's more of a, could be a ball on the ground, doesn't mean it's not a cross. And again, can you communicate in these moments and make sure that we have the numbers marked, especially if they have a speedy number 9 or a weak side player, a 7 or 11, that's going to come flying across on the blind shoulder in between this gap between our 2 and our 4. Before I answer Amanda's question, Evie, you want to jump in?
Yeah. This is a perfect situation of sort of one eye on the ball, one eye on what's going on, off the ball. And you know what? A lot of this is dictated by what Lou talked about earlier, your range, which is dictated by your athletic ability, your height, your dimensions, whatever. But this is the kind of stuff you got to be aware of. And you know what? Sometimes that long ball is going to be mishit and you're going to get caught out of position and it's going to go in the goal. Sometimes that happens. Okay. At every level, okay. Pros, national teams, everything. But, being able to move about your goal, get into that green rectangle that coach was talking about and be ready for the ball while at the same time kind of watching what's going on in the field in front of you is going to make all the difference for you eventually.
So Amanda, you asked on an early cross, how far should the defender go to the other goal? If you're talking about our defender, this is going to depend on what your team, how your coach wants your outside backs to play. If we're talking about these center backs, and we're covering to our goal, which is what I think your question might have more to do with, it's going to depend on the attacking player and when the ball is actually struck. So in this moment, we just want them to get back to our goal as quick as they can and defend that player. And if you come out, hopefully they understand to run in behind you and protect our goal, because now you've left. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this half space. Okay, we did go over this briefly in the fall. We did it for 1 or 2 sessions, and we'll continue to revisit it because it is a very, very difficult topic. So we see this half space. And again, I mentioned that it's drawn a little differently because we're going to assume this player here is actually two-footed. She's got a right foot and a left foot, and she likes to cut in and shoot, okay, if she's in this little pocket of space here. So those are things when we talk about you have to understand the players and observe the players you're playing against, okay? Again, the ball's played central. This player is running in. She gets on the ball. We've told Rachel to step. We have Megan and Sarah. They're picking up the 9 and the 10, okay? And maybe we get to Kate, who's got to deal with that 11, okay? But we see the goalkeeper here is in position to deal with this ball. It's played. Now she has to recover into, again, a green rectangle. Now, this green rectangle, the front part of it is in the about a yard or 2 from the post, and the middle part, the back part, is in the middle of our goal, and it's on an angle. Okay, so in this moment when the ball's in here, we want you in this space because you have to be able to protect and maybe come and claim a ball in here while still being prepared for a shot. Okay, and if you're here, you're on the ball line, okay, as we can see. And the player decides to deliver the ball. If it's well out here, then we're going to tuck in. If not, maybe it's right in this area, you can come and win, okay? Again, that depends on your range, okay, and the number of players running into the box, okay? Or this player may touch inside and shoot. Now you're in the right position already. Or if she decides to drive towards the end line, again, now you're still ready to defend a shot if she tries to shoot. And if she starts to come this way, you just step heels and bum in line with the post, and you leave this space and you're ready to shot stop. And that also flows into the next moment. Here's the thing. This is an extremely difficult moment in the game, and we understand that, okay? But if you can think about this angled open positioning where you're not square, but you are basically on the ball line, just set into the goal slightly, you're ready to defend the cross and the shot. Okay, and again, in these moments, as that ball travels, can you check your shoulder? Can you look around, organize a bit in a half second or so, and then get your eyes back on that ball and focus on your number 1 priority, which is defend the goal. Okay, notice here, the second 6 kind of shifts back, and because it becomes extremely difficult to come into that top yard or 2 of the 6 in this moment because you have to focus on the goal. Coach?
Yeah, and the challenge of the half space, guys, what makes it so difficult is it's close enough to your goal that you don't have the luxury of time when the ball is served, either shot or served, right? If the ball's out in the wide channel, if the player serves it, you got a little bit of time because of the flight of the ball. In here, you really don't. And so, as Coach was saying, you got to put yourself in the best position to deal with probably 3 tough options, and you have to do it quickly And this is, the half spaces, as coach said, this is the space that teams want to attack because it's difficult not only for the goalkeepers, but it's difficult for defenders from there too.
Right. Exactly. And again, we have to think in these moments, we've got our team and the opposition coming into the box. And if, as you get older or you play against craftier players, this 7 may even try to drive into the box. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go into a deeper explanation of the 3-goal situation or the cutback situation. Okay. The reason that we're calling it a cutback or a 3-goal situation is because they're one and the same. Okay. The issue here is that different coaches from different countries, different parts of our country, will call the same situation this and refer to it differently. So we want to kind of help you out with that. Okay. So the 3-goal situation is when you have 3 areas that we want to defend. Again, reverting back to our number 1 priority is always the goal. So that is the first goal in this situation that you have to defend. Okay. And then the second goal is when the ball enters this area here. Okay. Because now, all right, there's the option of the player shooting, or cutting it back into this area here for runners to come and try to score. Or the third option is this space in the back part of the 6 where they try to score in this little pocket. Okay. For the second goal, remember that this is based on your range. So you must be able to cover from the post out as far as you possibly can. My range was definitely different than Coach EV's based on the fact that I'm 5'9" and Coach EV is 6'3". Okay. The other thing is you're going to get your heels and bum in line with the post on that ball line. But once they cross into this area here where they're beyond the 6-yard box, you're going to square up because you can still defend this goal, but now you can hopefully cut the ball into this pocket of space out. If you can't get out here and make a play, you can't cut it out, then you have to drop in and give yourself as much time as possible to respond. Okay. And for me, Coach EV might be slightly different, but if they play a cutback ball that you can't win, I'm worried about you covering the first 4 yards of the goal. Okay. And hopefully we have a defender back here to help you with that back half. Okay. If it goes past that PK spot, then now we shift a little bit and the responsibility changes. Coach?
100% correct. One thing that may help a little bit is when the attacker has the ball, and she's looking for her 3 options. If she decides to play to the third goal, most of the time that ball has to be chipped or put in the air, which gives you a little bit of extra time to get a hand to it. Okay. But everything else, coach hit it right on the head. Everything is laid out there perfectly for you. The biggest challenge here is the second goal. Okay. Because not only does that require some quickness, but it also requires quite a bit of bravery because a lot of times you're diving into on-rushing players, both yours and the other teams. And if you can steal that serve, great. But, it does come with some risk.
All right. So this is the diagram, the situation. Okay. So the ball's central. We're coming in, goalkeeper shifting, and now it's gone. The ball's played into the half space, and this player is on the edge of that half space, and she's decided to drive into this pocket here. Okay, so our goalkeeper now is in this green rectangle again. Okay, that left foot or right foot, if we're on this side, it is kind of in line with the post, heels and bum again. All right, and we're on an angle. We're on the ball line still. Okay, but we're right in this space. The deeper they go, the instinct is going to be to close down. Okay, we want you to stand your ground and force them to beat you. Don't make it easier. Don't make the goal bigger for them to play in here by closing down the angle. Okay? Stand your ground. All right? The danger area is here. You have to protect this though first. So if you start pulling yourself down the line of the ball, you're giving them an easier option because now they can dink it over you or they can smash it past you. Give yourself that reaction time, okay? Stand, force them to beat you. If she plays the ball in early, you're just gonna come across, all right? If we play that ball, okay? Or she may try to strike it across, and this is still a 3-goal situation because now you can cut that ball out. It's almost, but it may not be a shot. It could be bending away, all right? Or she decides to drive past this dash line, okay, which we extend from the 6, and now you've squared up in this pocket of space. So now you're in that second goal, and if they drive it across, maybe you can cut it out. Maybe you can get a hand on it and throw off the timing of the run of the 9 and the 11 or the 10. If you can't, maybe you can go at the same time and meet the ball on the attacking player's foot or head, or you're going to drop in and protect that front half. Or we've got that chipped ball, which you drop step and you move as quick as you can across that goal, and you're set when that ball is made contact by that late run. Okay. The biggest thing in this moment is you have to be patient. Okay. We don't need you, unless the ball is a massive touch, okay, 4 or 5 yards away from the player, to come flying out here and trying to make it a 1v1. Now, if they enter into the 6-yard box with a big touch, that's a different story. That becomes more of a 1v1. Okay. Coach?
Perfect explanation. Perfect explanation. And standing your ground here is paramount. Okay. It's hard to do, but it's paramount. Don't forget, you're in goal. They're coming to you. Okay. They're trying to get in front of your goal. So you don't have to chase. You don't have to chase out of the goal to get them. Okay. That's number one. Number two is this is where, as coach said, if you get in a situation where you can't cut out the cross, then this is where you're just defending your goal, and anything you get a hand to it, leg to it, anything to stop it. That's all we're looking for here. And the only last thing I would say is when you're in the position that the goalkeeper is shown here, it's kind of important that you have a glance over your right shoulder back to see that late running player, because if you have an idea of the angle that she or he is taking to the goal and they get the ball to them, it helps you get on the proper ball angle when you scurry across the goal. Okay. And again, what coach has diagrammed here, these are the kind of saves that turn a game. Okay. If you make these saves, these are game winners, because it's a tough scenario to deal with as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point there, Coach. If you can make, whether it's a point blank save where you're on the line and you get a toe to it, or even your nose, or you come and you close down and you use a block or smother the ball in the attacker's foot or their head, or you cut this ball out and then you get up and you're able to start the counter. These are game-changing moments, and they're also, if I'm being honest, they're a lot of fun to make saves in these moments, because a lot of times, the opposition thinks they've scored already. So, yeah. So that's what we have for tonight. So we can go ahead and open it up to some questions to dive a little deeper. So yeah, so the Q&A box is up. Let's hear from you guys. All right, Coach. We're not getting any
No
questions.
questions?
No questions tonight. I think
All
we
right.
were rock stars.
I guess we could expect everything to be perfect when we
I
get back
guess
to the
I think
fields.
we're gonna have perfect
Yeah.
crosses
We have
moving
perfect position
forward.
goalkeepers. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So again, thank you all for joining Coach Evie and I tonight on the GK webinar. The biggest thing we want to remind everyone is to continue to stay safe during this time and wash your hands, as our anonymous attendee has reminded us. And keep an eye out. This recording will go up. There will be a follow-up assignment next week. And if you have anything or need anything from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can't wait to get back on the pitch with you guys.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.